Interagency Council of Norristown, ICN, is a consortium of organizations and individuals concerned with improving the quality of life and the delivery of human services within the greater central Montgomery County area. We bring people together in the region to promote collaboration and cooperation among the social service organizations, community groups, local government, and residents. Through this show, ICN presents Making Connections. We will consider a variety of topics that identify community resources and needs, and we'll discuss quality of life issues. We'll talk about strategies for strengthening our families, healthy lifestyle choices, and volunteer options. We hope you'll find our show informative and helpful. Today, we're going to talk about volunteers, volunteerism, and some community services. We're glad you're joining us on ICN Presents Making Connections. Today, we're going to talk about volunteers and volunteerism. And even though some people think it's confusing when I say it, I like to think about volunteers as people power, the energy that allows us to conduct major enterprises. Today, we'll talk with Harriet Klein, welcome, from RSVP, an organization that matches volunteers with projects, and you'll tell us a little more about that. Kim Tobin from Habitat for Humanity, which many of you know about, and uses volunteer power to pretty much entirely take on the work that your organization conducts. And also we're fortunate to have Cindy Sarator, a community volunteer, and I think someone who can talk to us about being the volunteer and helping to be that people power that makes things happen. So thank you all for joining me today.
Thank you.
As I was growing up ages and ages ago, as a teenager, I got involved as a volunteer. And I remember cutting out of some newspaper a little comic that said, volunteer service is the rent that you pay to your community. And it really spoke to me then, and it continues to speak to me now, and I still have it up somewhere on some wall. And it just seems so important to me, and I wonder if something like that has connected with you at some point in your life, that you're involved with either organizations that work with volunteers or as a volunteer. What brings you to this? And maybe we will start with you. What brings you to this?
I think just the interest in finding programs that benefit people and realizing that many programs can't run on a dollar. They need people behind them that are not paid to get programs to benefit the community, whether it's children, adults, those needy people, whatever is involved.
Mm-hmm. And what draws you to this community volunteer?
I found, as I think many volunteers have found, I'm also a volunteer as well as a coordinator. Sure. My husband and I both volunteer. You find out that you're not just helping the public, the community, it's a fulfillment within yourself.
Sure, yeah, of course.
And when you're a volunteer, you realize that it's so enriching to do something like this and to feel the accomplishment of helping someone else. It's just fabulous.
It's definitely a win-win situation.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
I think that it is really important for me to, as Harriet was saying, I'm a volunteer as well as working for an organization that relies heavily on volunteers. But for me, volunteering is important to see the work manifested, seeing a house being built, seeing how fostering and adopting animals helps the organization and the community. So I think that's what kind of motivates me.
That's great. Why don't you continue a little bit and tell us a little bit about what Habitat is and how Habitat uses volunteers?
Sure. Habitat is an organization, there's over 2,000 affiliates worldwide, but in Montgomery County, we provide housing for low-income families. We do this by relying heavily on volunteers, whether that's construction site supervisors, companies and organizations that donate materials as well as their time, paint, construction materials, all the people who come out from organizations or for individuals who actually work on the house, lay the cement, hammer and nailing the studs and things like that into the home. And it doesn't stop there. We have a Restore, which is a recycling store that people donate items, and anyone in the community can come and purchase the items at a discounted price. So there's lots of ways that we work with volunteers, but definitely none of it would be done without the use of volunteers.
Very nice. And I know that the homeowners actually are volunteers as well.
Yes, every Habitat homeowner has to provide, we call it sweat equity hours, and they work on their own home and or other Habitat homes. And it just gives them the connection to their home and seeing how it's built, and they take better care of it and get them involved in the community. So it's been great.
That's wonderful. Thanks. Tell us a little bit about RSVP and volunteers, and maybe explain the whole name.
Okay, well, RSVP is a very well-kept secret. We've been around over 38 years. However, the fact that we place volunteers into other nonprofits throughout the county sort of gives people, you know, the idea that we're invisible.
Right.
Okay? Right. Originally, RSVP was for retired and senior volunteer program. However, volunteering, as you well know, is changing drastically, and the needs are changing drastically, and our volunteers are changing with it. So they are not all retired, and they, you know, do many, many things. Years ago, you would think of a volunteer from a retired person as being a little old lady knitting in a chair. Well, we still have those.
Good.
There's a need for that as well. However, the needs of the community are changing, and our volunteers are getting younger due to the financial conditions. A lot of people are taking early layoffs at work. People are graduating college and have nowhere to go, and they'd like something nice for their resume. So volunteering is an option.
Very nice. Tell me 2 or 3 places that you've placed volunteers.
Oh, many. Habitat for Humanity. Essentially, we're connected with most of the nonprofits throughout the whole county.
How nice.
Yeah, and we have 5 offices where we interview people so that they can work close to home and they don't have to travel far.
So you actually do some matching then too. You're talking with a volunteer about their skills and talents and interests, and then you're finding out from the nonprofits what they need.
Exactly.
And making that connection.
Exactly.
Very nice.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Now you volunteer with several different organizations, some concurrently, some over time. But I know one of the groups you're involved with is the Scouting.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the different groups that you're involved with and the different things volunteers do in those groups.
Well, I do spend a lot of time with Girl Scouts. I am a service unit manager, which means I coordinate the troops within the Norristown area, try to find leaders for those troops, girls interested in Girl Scouting, and that takes quite a bit of coordination because it's difficult to find adults willing to commit long-term, which would be for the Scout year or the school year, working with girls. We have a lot of people who are interested in intermittent volunteering, but not necessarily committing to the whole time. And the world has changed. The parents used to be the Scout leaders. I know Kim mentioned her mother was her Scout leader. That is not always practical today. We have parents who are just struggling to try to make ends meet, and taking on responsibility of a Girl Scout troop is more than they can handle. Right. So we're always looking for people from the community who might be interested in being involved with the girls. And we have a lot of lifers, people who have been in scouting for a lifetime.
Sure. That's nice.
So,
you mentioned working at the PAL Center,
yes.
too.
Yes, we have Norristown has a new police